Dandavat pranams to all. Here we are continuing our Shri Upadeshamrita challenge. We've reached verse number 3. Thank you for everyone who's continuing the journey. And a special thanks to those who have written in with encouragement or affirming that they're joining the challenge. Or Praneshwari, Didi, and some nice comments from Namapriya and Kelly Kadamba and others, some Russian devotees. So we've reached verse number 3. And now we're entering the positive side. We've cleared the path, and now we can begin the journey in earnest. And so these are describing the 6 qualities which are favorable to our devotional cultivation. First verse, 6 unfavorable urges. Second verse, 6 unfavorable qualities which will hinder us on the path of bhakti. And now 6 qualities which will support the growth of our tender bhakti lata creeper, the creeper of our seed of devotion. So those are utsāhān, niścayād, dhairyāt, tat-tat-karma-pravartanāt, saṅga-tyāgāt, sato, vṛtteḥ, ṣaḍbhir, bhakti, prasidhyati. So the first of these is utsāhān, means enthusiasm, and this refers to an eagerness to engage in the practices of devotion, in service, in shravanam, kirtanam, hearing, chanting, all of those practices which are recommended for the growth of our devotion, our bhakti, our precious, tender bhakti lata bij. There's one quote of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he describes enthusiasm as the life of faith. We don't want to be armchair philosophers, armchair theists, but if we have real faith, stronger, deeper faith, and that will be expressed, that will come out in the form of enthusiasm to act upon it. We can think of enthusiasm also as an expression of surrender. Faith is the starting point, and then deep faith, the expression of that will be surrender, that we want to give ourselves to this with eagerness, with energy, with desire, with lalyam. And our Gurudev, he mentioned one charming example of this. How this is something that will be expressed in small things in our day-to-day life of practicing devotion. He mentioned one charming example. It was in the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and he was sitting with some of his disciples in some type of veranda, like half open area, having some discussion, and it started to rain. And meanwhile, there was some deity paraphernalia, some plates that had been left out, some plates and bowls like this, some utensils that were used for making offerings to the deity. They were left out because, as we saw in India, they would be cleansed in an open air, cleaning area. And so everyone looked at what was going on. It's raining heavily. Nobody wants to run out in the rain. But there's some service needed there. And there was one brahmachari there present who jumped up, and he immediately jumped up and went running, and he collected those plates and bowls and he put them in their proper place. And at that time, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he commented, "Oh, this is utsāhān, this is enthusiasm." So this is one sweet example. Next quality, we're going to try and keep this short and sweet. Utsāhān, niścayād means conviction, means to have firm faith, that this is everything, this is all in all. And we can also reference famous definition of shraddha, faith, given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha shabde vishwas kahe, sujirda nishchoy, Krishna bhakti koile, sarva karma krita hoy. So interestingly, this word nishchoy, same word is used here. To have the firm conviction, nishchoy, conviction, that by the service of Krishna, everything will be achieved. By devotion, Krishna bhakti koile, sarva karma krita, all duties, all activities, all needs will be met, will be fulfilled by doing this central thing, by offering ourselves in the service of Krishna, in devotion to Krishna. So this niścay, that this is everything. This is everything. And another way in which I've heard this explained by our gurus is that Also the idea, so conviction in our faith, that's one idea. But I would also like to add to that, one point which supports that is that, this also indicates becoming familiar with the philosophy. We're always warned about becoming too empirical, too much, knowledge seekers. We don't want it to be theory, etc. We are cautioned about that, but it also doesn't mean that we want to go to the other extreme and totally reject the philosophy, the siddhanta, perfect theological conclusions. Because cultivating some understanding of the teachings, and in a natural way, as we go along the daily path, not that we will overemphasize it, but in a natural and gradual way, we want to continue to hear and cultivate our understanding, because that will support our faith, that will support that firm conviction. And there's a famous verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Kaviraj Goswami, Siddhanta Bolya Chitte Nakaro Alas, Iha Hoite Jidda Krishna Sudada. Forget the last part. But that do not be lazy, he says, to consider the Siddhanta, because by doing so, our faith in Krishna will become more firm. Sudrida. A similar word to niścayād, this conviction, firmness of faith. So going back to the second point I wanted to make in relation to this quality of niścayād, I've also heard it explained by our gurus that it refers to this confidence, that we will reach the goal. Even if we find ourselves, drowning in so many defects, we won't lose hope. We will have confidence that we will succeed, we will get there. Why? Because the Lord is there. So there's this optimism. Pessimism is atheistic, Srila Sridhar says in one place. But faith is by nature optimistic, confident. We will get there because I'm not depending on my own self, on my own strength, my own limited power. I'm connecting with some higher power. There's this idea that sometimes develops amongst practitioners that we're all meant to be cowering around and meant to be insecure and uncertain and all the time, shy. That's not true. If that's genuinely an expression of devotion, that's beautiful. But if that's just an expression of your mental issues, low self-esteem, etc., that's not devotion. That's not in the line of devotion. But rather to have confidence, that is an expression of devotion also. Because we're depending on a higher power. We're always living in the relativity of a higher plane. We're not calculating things in terms of our own interests and our own needs anymore. Everything's being calculated in connection with the higher. Tomar ichai mor micha ishaila bhakti vinod aj apane bolila. This is a beautiful line of Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Sharanagati, that today my desires have merged with your desires, my Lord, my beloved Lord. Today Bhakti Vinod has forgotten himself. So there's this sense of oneness, there's this feeling of oneness, that we identify the Lord's interest with our own interest, our own welfare, and with this connected with the Lord and his desire, his will. So there will be a happy confidence surrounding that, because the Lord's will is supreme and the Lord's will is all good. So that joyful confidence will also be there. We will not be discouraged, by what failings we find within ourselves or within the environment in any form. We have that confidence. The Lord is there. The higher power is there. Our gurus are at work. The higher Vaishnavas are taking care. So utsāhān, enthusiasm, niścayād, conviction. And then the third quality comes up a lot, dhairyāt. Dhairyāt means patience, determination, perseverance, that we will go on. Because as I was just saying, it's easy to become discouraged as we go along the path, especially as we go along and we start making actual progress, then it can be a case of things start to get worse before they get better. There can be a purging process that takes place. Or simply that as the purity within us increases and our awareness increases, We become more conscious of our failings. We may have been there all along, but we didn't observe it because we were too much in the cloud. But once the clouds start to clear, then we can see. Unmilitanyena, right? Omajnana timirandasya gyananjana shalakya. Chakshur unmilita. Guru is opening our eyes and showing us, giving us clarity. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we bow to Shri Guru Vaishnava. So this patience, there's one talk of Srila Sridhar Maharaj that I listened to at one time, and one practitioner was expressing in a kind of hopeless, desolate way, that sometimes, he said, long periods go by when we don't feel Krishna coming to touch us. We don't feel that touch, that higher touch, right? And we all experience that, Some days we feel that inspiration, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel that magic, and other times we don't. And sometimes long periods of time may pass under this kind of cloud. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj's response, very simple, sweet, practical. He simply said patience. And he quoted this verse from Upadeshamrita, this dhairyāt. Sometimes we must be patient. And it is also, I also see it as a test of our faith and whatever type of level of devotion that we have, if we may even call it that at all. That it is like a test of love, right? That when persons have a serious relationship, with lovers, with family members, with friends, there's going to be ups and there are going to be downs, right? And the downs, the difficult periods, those are the real tests. Those are the moments of test. That is this friendship, really going to work out? I was thinking earlier today, actually, how sometimes with new friendships, there's this kind of honeymoon period where you just adore each other, you get along really well, you're in touch a lot. And then different things happen, maybe some differences of opinion or distractions in the environment, and then you just kind of go your different ways, right? But and you realize there wasn't really a deep connection there. But there are other friendships that stand the test of time, right? That expression is used, the test of time. And you suddenly realize, I've been friends with this person for the last 10 years, and they've been steady. I've been steady. This is a real thing. Then this is a real friend. There's one verse, a Sanskrit verse that our Gurudev liked, that defines a friend. A friend is someone who's with you in the time of a festival, but also the time of famine. A friend is with you in the courthouse, when you're going to prison. Friend is with you in times of happiness and in times of trouble. Friend is with you even at your cremation ground. So in all phases of your life, your friend is there. So in the same way, we want to make this practice of Krishna consciousness our best friend. That we will, with patience, continue. We know this is it. This is the way. Even if the going gets tough sometimes, we won't be going, right? We will persevere. And our Gurudev actually, on one occasion, he referenced this verse about friendship when he met with the devotees. It was during one of his world tours visiting Italy. And he started his first meeting on this visit to Italy. He referenced this verse. And he was saying, this is how I think of all of you. When I say I'm your friend, this is how I mean it. And he said, and I hope, my hope and expectation is you will also think of me in this way. You will think that I am your friend and you will treat me in this way. So we will try to develop this type of relationship with our practice, this commitment, this promise that we've made to practice Krishna consciousness. We must be patient, face whatever may come, and with hope, with optimism, as we discussed. So utsāhān, niścayād, dhairyāt. And the fourth quality, tat-tat-karma-pravartanāt, means to continue with all the practices, that have been recommended. Karma here means activities. So to engage ourselves with the aforementioned qualities and all the recommended practices, activities of devotion, recommended for one in the life, practicing the life of devotion. We know there's nothing else to do, there's nothing better to do. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj comments on this, when we've developed some real attachment, then he said if we stop, it will be horrible. And it is a kind of interesting test. And there's one story of some disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who came to him at one time and said, we've been practicing, or what's it exactly what they said? Along these lines, that we've been practicing for so many years now, we don't feel like we're getting anything. And Saraswati Thakur said, oh, well, why don't you stop then? And they were horrified by the idea. No, we could never do that. No, we could never do that. So that feeling should come to us, that there's nothing else to do. We have some attachment. All these things, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atman, hearing, chanting, praying, worshipping, all of these things. Atmanivedanam, ultimately, trying to offer ourselves in a mood of surrender. We will steadily, perseverely go on with all these things. Sadhu Sangha, of course, primarily in association with the sadhus, with the saints, the Vaishnavas. The next point, tat-tat-karma-pravartanāt, saṅga-tyāgāt. Now this is a really important one. Saṅga-tyāgāt, tyāg is to give up, right? Renounce. So to give up bad association is what is implied here. Sangha association. Bad is implied. To give up bad association. This is very important, not to be underestimated. It's easy to underestimate it. The example is given that if we're rowing our boat in a particular direction, but we're still anchored somewhere, we've got an anchor, our boat is tied to an anchor, we won't get it. We won't get anywhere. We won't get very far, right? We'll travel a couple of feet, the length of the rope, right? So in the same way, if we're trying to move forward, engaging in the positive prescribed activities, but we're not letting go of what's holding us back, what's holding us down, we're not letting go of what's recommended to give up, we're not going to get so far. At least we know we can't give it up in our own power, but at least we have to give up our resistance. Because actually that higher current will come and pull us away. This is explained also in regards to the 10th offense to the holy name. That's another discussion. We have to be able to let go what's holding us back. See, actually, Krishna, he is the embodiment of attraction. Krishna, Akarshan, that's the meaning of his name. He is attraction itself, the personified expression of attraction, most attractive force in the total of reality, the sum total of reality. So by nature, we will be attracted to him, like a metal filing to a magnet. Attraction's automatic, instantaneous. But if there's some rust there, it's an intercepting, right? It won't take place. It interrupts that natural attraction. So in the same way, if we are holding on to bad association, negative association, then that's like that rust. That attraction can't take place. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in one place, he says, if we can let go of all forms of bad association, we're almost all the way there. Because it's just this natural movement that will take place. If we can let go those things tying us down, it will be almost automatic. So, if we're going out and we're filling our head with so many things in this world, then when we go to hear about the beauty of Krishna, there's no space, right? So we got to make some space. If we go and fill up on junk food, when we go to grandma's for some healthy, home-cooked, lovingly made meal, we won't have any appetite, right? So we need to keep some space within us so that these things can come and find some place within our heart. We need to leave some space in our heart for these higher things to come and touch us and move us. And if we can do that, we will be astonished. Wait and see. In one place, Srila Sridhar says, are you ready? Wait and see. How will that higher wave, that wave coming from the center of all beauty, love, charm, how will it come and touch us here and now? Are we ready for that? Let's try to be ready for that. Let's prepare ourselves for that. Let's leave some room for that at least. Let's give it a chance. Let's give Krishna a chance. So, saṅga-tyāgāt, and then sato vṛtteḥ, the final sixth quality. To follow the example of the saints, their activities is the literal meaning. And also, Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains, means simply, again, sadhu saṅga, association. And this is very crucial, very essential, perhaps the most important, let's say, of these six. Because the sadhu, the Vaishnava, the tangible living person, that's something in front of us that we can feel and touch, we can talk to, we can seek advice from in a practical, immediate way. Everything else can be kind of abstract, right? But what these things we've talked about, enthusiasm, conviction, perseverance, patience, all these things, these are all like abstract ideas, but having the association of a Vaishnava makes everything tangible, and we can see the expression of these things. We can see the expression of things in front of our eyes. See that example, be inspired by that example, and follow that example. And to serve that having the association of the Vaishnava also implies serving that Vaishnava. And then service of the Vaishnavas, that's our greatest capital. That is inviting grace from above. And that is the essence, right? Receiving higher grace. That is the most powerful ingredient, catalyst for our progressive spiritual life. So let's read the translation also to sum everything up. Enthusiasm, conviction, perseverance here, patience, as I said, engaging in favorable activities, giving up bad association, and following the conduct of the sadhus. Bhakti is nourished by these six qualities. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thank you all so much for joining on this journey. Tune in next time for verse number 4. Bye.